All right. We have Nix Lee from Spine PR. Welcome to the shows. Welcome to the show, Nix.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
What's so give us the 30,000 foot view of who you are, who Spine PR is, and yeah, let's talk about content syndication.
Yeah. So my name is Nix Lee. If you don't know who I am, I'm the founder of Spine PR. So Spine PR is basically just a uh, company that provides press releases for two agencies, whether you're a digital agency, SEO agency, marketing agency, or even a PR agency. We just provide uh, digital PR to all these companies, and we just complement their marketing services, their SEO services for their clients. That's it. So we only focus on digital PR. That's it. We don't do anything else but digital PR.
So most of the people who watch my show, I'm going to tell them, the whole idea behind Agency Hacker Nix is there's a whole bunch of people that are doing like this drilled down when you have like Craig Campbell, who's doing super technical stuff, and you have Matt Diggity, who's doing super technical stuff. Most of the people who watch my show probably have owned an agency for less than 3 years, and they may not even know what content syndication is. They're probably working on marketing automation and email marketing and stuff like that. So can you talk a little bit about, PR, content syndication, and what that means?
Okay, so for me, right, for me, when someone asks me what is content syndication, I have two aspects of it. One is an article syndication, or like for example, it's a video, it's a blog, it's infographics, and another one is the PR side where I'm inside, where I'm doing part of it, which is part of the content syndication. So, in terms of a syndication, right? For those who don't know what it is, so an article or content syndication is basically the process of republishing your content on a third-party site. And that's what they do, right? So, but now what's happening is with SEO coming into play and digital PR coming into play, it's becoming something really, really huge. It's becoming something of a buzzword. It's not like just having a video or a blog that you're syndicating. It's coming more than that right now. So businesses or marketing agencies and PR agencies who we work with, the traditional PR agencies, are all moving towards content syndication. It's not a new thing, content syndication. I mean, we all know about it. It's just that how we're doing it and how creative we are about it is coming into play now. So, that's how it's out.
So when I'm going back to my early agency days, what I would do is I would use, oh my gosh, who is it? Cision, right? So I would use Cision PR Web, and generally what I would do is I would take a piece of content or an email marketing campaign. I would create the landing page assets to try and engage with people on an inbound or from an inbound standpoint, and then I would push out advertising. And then the very next thing I would do is I would do like a PR Web campaign, and I would pay, I'm pretty sure it was like $500 every time, right? So $500, and I would pay $500 and get that content that I now published, whether it's a blog article or whatever, into like the local news sites and everything else. And that has transitioned over the last decade pretty seriously, right? So Cision is kind of dying because they were in this industry and they were charging lots of money, and companies like Spine PR came in and said, we can do just as much or more. And we can do that for less, and we can do the legwork for you. And we're still not only going to get you out to those news sites, but we're actually going to get you out to more news sites, right?
That's right.
And then the other side is we always looked at content syndication for in two different ways, right? Or we use content syndication for two reasons. The first one being to syndicate the content, and then two, from a branding standpoint. So as we're, the customer wants to see their name in headlights. They want to know, they want to be able to say we were on NBC, we were on CBS, or whatever that is, and that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So what are some of the networks that you? I mean, I'm going to give you an opportunity to brag. So, what are some of the networks that you guys publish to?
I mean, okay. The difference with us is and what is providing now, what's going on now on the net. We are trying to be as big as Cision or PR Newswire and all those kind of other big firms. Big in the sense that, okay, we have that kind of network, but not that kind of crazy prices that they are charging. So, for example, right, if you were to post something on PR Newswire, Cision, or whatever, right, uh, they will charge you somewhere around, I don't know, about $600-700 now for the 400 to 500 words, and that is not including your logo. So a logo will be charged like another $100. If you want to add in another 100 words, it's going to be another $100. You want to add in another picture and all that nonsense, right? So we kind of saying, okay, the reason why we set up something like this was I used to be in an agency. I ran 5 agencies in my lifetime. Or was it 6? All right. I started an agency when I was pretty young, when I was in my 20s. I started an agency and I failed in that agency pretty badly. And I lost a lot of money in that agency because I didn't have a single idea what I was doing at all at the time.
Sure.
And yeah, and the name was pretty lame. I mean, I named it like something called Multicom and Web Design, some weird name because of Bill Gates. Because I read one of his books, and I was reading the how he named Microsoft. And I was like, okay, that's a cool name. So I want to name something that's similar. And that business failed terribly. So I ran kind of many agencies, full-scale digital agencies. I didn't run an SEO agency per se, but we had a full-scale 360 digital agency that was doing offline, online, and all that kind of stuff. So during the process of doing that agency, we always had clients that we wanted to do content syndication, PR, and all this kind of stuff. And one of the biggest problems that we had at the time was getting the content for a client out on the internet, on digital, getting to the press and all that. And it was extremely expensive because we only had the traditional PR companies to talk to, right? And whenever we ask for, okay, we want to get this particular product or this launch out, it's going to cost us like thousands of dollars. And they would only get like 3 or 4 newspapers, for example. So when I was running that agency, I would ask them, so look, what's the ROI? How do I measure this? How does it affect the sales and all that? And most of the time, they couldn't give me all the information. So it's pretty frustrating. And so we went on a journey to look for how do we get it online? How do I go? How with one click of a button, I send it to thousands of sites, hundreds of sites. And that was the journey that happened. And we took it many years whereby Spine PR was formed. And Spine PR was formed about 6 years ago. We started with our own products, with our own business that we had with the agency. And we started running out all these promotions first. And based on that, we started building up a huge network of sites. So we started getting relationship with some is paid. I mean, all content syndication now, most of it is paid. There are a few that is free, but what you see generally now is all paid. So we started building relationships with all these guys, like for example, like Yahoo, AP News, or publishing house or syndication house that have this particular publication. We started building networks with them, and we also build networks with PR Newswire and all those guys, big guys, because there are certain areas that they can go that we can't reach. That's for sure. Like for example, China, Indonesia, Vietnam, they have the networks that we don't have. So we do work with them, and we build relationships with them. So starting an agency, this is my 6th agency running, I think so. All right, I didn't want it to be an agency. It was supposed to be something that, just to keep me free. I mean, just to keep me busy. I'm sorry, just to keep me busy because I took a sabbatical after my last agency. I took a 1-year sabbatical because I was on a total burnout because I was working like nonstop. Agency's life, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
I work every day that ends with Y. How about you?
Yeah. So we built an agency up to about 50 to 100 people for the last agency, and that was like a crazy time for us. But it was fun, but it was also crazy. So I took a sabbatical and I said, look, I'm just going to get on and do some PR work, because since we were already doing some of it and had some network with people, I said, look, I'll just go on there and just help other agencies and businesses get cheaper distribution without paying an arm and a leg.
Sure.
And lo and behold, 6 years, I'm still running it.
So let's go through. You gave us some nuggets there, right?
Yeah.
Gold. And so one, you did the agency route.
Yeah.
And you didn't do very well the first time around, but then you started to learn more and more, and you became more and more successful. Two, I really want to touch on when we look at content syndication, and I don't know all of the I call them the dirt farming PR. Who are the bad ones?
I don't know, man.
There's so many bad ones that they'll pay like $45 or $40, and it just doesn't go anywhere. I can't think of any of them right now. So generally what happens with an agency owner is they go through the process of starting their agency. They start doing all of these tasks, whether it's website building, email marketing, lead gen, all of this stuff. And then they if they're like me, they kind of stumble into the PR world, right?
Yeah.
So from the PR side, when we started doing PR at the beginning, we would buy like these blocks of press releases from Cision for PR Newswire or PR Web, whoever it was.
Yeah,
they're all the same, and they're all owned by Cision. Most people don't realize that they're all owned by Cision, by one company.
That's right.
So we would go to them and we would buy these blocks, and it would go out, and we'd get these reports back that were so diluted, right? And I'm kind of building you up into a segue, because I did a press release through Spine PR, and when I got it back, I was like, or Anthony did, right? And we got it back, and I was like, wow. You know what I mean? The difference between Cision of what I would get this report that said, this got picked up by the New Mexico Indian reservation or whatever it was, and potential impressions are 9 million or whatever. And it was all this data, but the data really didn't make any sense, and we had to put it all together. So, we were I don't even remember what the press release was for, but Anthony kept saying, hey, gosh, this has to be well over a year ago, but let's use Spine PR, right? And I don't remember how long ago it was that we first did your stuff, but I said, okay, well, I don't really know anything about Spine PR. Okay, so between you and I, Anthony had to talk me into it. Okay, so he was pushing me in your direction, and I said, how much does it cost? And he said, I don't remember how much it costs. It doesn't matter how much it costs, but you were having like a special at the time or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah. I said, I don't know who these guys are. And, I ran into, as an agency owner, truth be told, we were doing about 90,000 a month in PR through our, with our clients, through, PR Newswire, PR Web, all of this other stuff. And so you came in, you kind of threw your hat into the ring without knowing it. Anthony came to me and said, hey, we want to do this stuff. And let's use Nix. And I said, how much does it cost? And I'm going to share this with you, because it's kind of funny and it's kind of sad, because he said, whatever it costs. I think you were running a special for like $85 at the time or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And my immediate response to Anthony was, that can't be any good.
Yeah.
Okay. So he said, what do you mean? I said, well, with Cision, I have to pay him. I think I was averaging like $500 per press release. Plus we have to write it. Plus we have to do all of this other stuff. I said, so let me get this straight. You want me to trust somebody I've never met before with content syndication, and they're going to write it, and it only cost me $85? And he said, yup. Right? I mean, he was like, yup. I said, I'll give it a try. Right? I mean, but I literally said this. I said, this can't be any good. Like, this is one of those, I can't think of the other ones that do the cheap, like super cheap. I call them the dirt farmers of the PR world, but I can't think of any of their names right now. But the $40 ones that are just terrible and atrocious. And they look terrible. So then you went to work and you did all of your stuff, and you sent back this report, right? After it was all done. And I called Anthony on the phone and I said, Anthony, he's like, yeah. I said, this is some really good shit, man. I said, this is like way beyond even what we get from Cision. You know what I mean? This is in it's like 20% of the cost. Like, this is crazy. And so that's kind of how the relationship between us and you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we moved away from PR because we moved away from those big clients, and we still have big clients that what we would do is we would do like a group buy where we would figure out how many press releases that they needed over the course of, say, 90 days. And we would buy these blocks of press releases from Cision. And we still have a whole bunch of those left. But so I want to be real clear, because as people are going into the PR world, they're going to, gosh, I wish I could remember the names of these, but they're going to run into what I call the dirt farmers. Okay? And I don't want them to, based on price, I want them to realize that you're providing the services of what Cision is providing, and even more, because you actually are syndicating to more networks than what Cision does.
Yep.
You're doing it for 20% of the cost. Yep. You're writing the press releases for the client, which Cision does not do.
Yeah.
And you're not one of those $40 cheap, whatever you want to call it, the used car sales of PR, whoever those people are. But does that accurately depict that?
Yeah, sure. The reason because it's gonna sound a bit cheesy. So the one reason why I'm providing the service at such a low price is because in the PR industry, right? I mean, all the years, because like I said, my background was digital advertising, and I ran advertising agencies, like full scale advertising agencies. And we used to charge the clients hundreds of thousands of dollars for PR. And one of the biggest issue for me was this: I would see a PR launch out or when it's or campaign launch out, and I would see zero benefits to the client. But to the client is that, wow, you got me on Yahoo, you got me on AP News, you got me on Business Insider. I would never be able to get it by myself. So whatever you're charging me must be that price, and I'm going to pay for it. And that was something I really, it didn't stick with me well for a long time. And I was like, I mean, what you're giving, I know the cost, I know what is done, and you are charging like what 800 times more what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, so and that's a great point, because the people who are watching these videos, they're struggling generally, and you would be amazed at the messages that I get. That one, they don't know how to make money, right? And that's kind of a standard thing in the agency world. When you first get started, you don't know how to value your services. So the reason why I brought you onto the show is because they have an opportunity to resell PR as a service and charge Cision prices very comfortably. Cision prices. So we would take, as an example, we would do no less than a 1.4x, and we would shoot for a 1.8. That if it's costing me $500, I'm going to multiply that times 1.4 to 1.8, and that's what I would charge the client.
Correct.
Plus, I would charge them for content writing. Okay, so this actually, from a competition model, let's assume that you have two agencies. One is using Cision, one is using Spine PR. You can be more competitive than the agency who's using Cision, right?
That's right.
I can take your product, and how much does your standard press release cost?
$95.
Okay, so let's just round it off to 100, because I'm not always great at math this early.
Same,
So if it's $100, that same product, generally with a logo and all of this other stuff that you're doing and writing the content, with the same PR Newswire product, is going to cost you roughly about $750. Is that fair? So you're actually getting more value with a a report back that is more streamlined than what you're getting from a PR web or PR newswire through your service for 1/7 the cost.
That's right.
Okay. So if I take that business model and let's say I'm going to sell it for $1,000 and through PR Newswire, I'm going to charge that client $1,000 and my net margin is, with writing the content, let's say it's $125 because I still have to write the content and I have to account for the time spent.
Yeah.
With yours at $100, I can walk in the door and sell that product for $700.
That's right.
And now I have $600 in margin, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're going to write it and you're going to provide a report back to us that we're going to be able to, it's white labeled so I can hand it right to the client.
That's right.
I don't know why everybody isn't doing that. I mean, it's like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah. You do see me posting up a lot about this, kind of like posting up a lot about this. The reason why our prices are low, because we only service agencies,
sure.
Any type of agencies, right? So the prices that we give the agencies are low so that they can mark up. I mean, if I'm charging an agency $800, it's pretty hard for them to mark up higher than that unless the client's huge. And we know a lot of the agencies, the clients are not really big clients, right? It's either small clients or mid-sized clients. So the reason Spine PR was formed in that sense, the idea was formed like, how can we service agencies? So I don't really work with clients as in retail. I mean, we have a division that does that, but it's like a separate entity by itself that only goes to selected corporate clients, and these clients are mostly public listed clients, where if we were to walk into a public listed clients and we say, look, this PR we can do it for you for $100 or $200, they'll kick us out of the office.
Sure.
Yeah. So to them, is a PR should be $5,000 to $10,000. Then you are a legit PR company. Anything less than that, you're scammers. Get out of my office. And this is
You actually just brought up an interesting conversation that I had with somebody. So when I first I'm not going to give out a client name because I have an NDA with them, but let's just say that one of the clients that I've worked with for years is a Fortune 50 company. Okay. And when I walked in the door, so I was referred to them. And I tell everybody that a lot of the best things that happen in my agency happened by accident. And I couldn't really tell people how to duplicate that process because I didn't make it happen. You know what I mean? It just kind of happened, which is a great position to be in. But I was invited in to bid a project for this Fortune 50 company. And I bid it out and I was so nervous, right? Because this was like my first really big client. And so I went in and they said, okay, bid it out. And they were pitched by multiple very, very large agencies. And so I came in and I said, okay. And I remember putting together the bid and I looked at it and I decided it was going to be $7,700 a month. Okay. $7,700. And I was scared at $7,700. Okay. And I was literally questioning myself. And I said, I think I should only charge $7,000. Okay. And $7,000 seemed like a lot of money too, because I was at the beginning, I didn't know how to value what I was doing.
That's right.
And so I submitted the bid for $7,700 and I won the contract. I remember getting the email. They don't even call you. The big companies, they don't call you, right? They just send out an email. You're not going to get a minute of their time. So I get this email back, congratulations, we've selected you for this project, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought I'd won the lottery because the most I'd ever charged a client at that point was like, I think $4,000. And I almost doubled it. So I go to work on this project, and with the really big companies, you're not getting hired. You're getting hired on a project basis. You're not getting hired, and I don't think I'll explain that in a different video down the road. So I'm working on this project and I would have to fly out occasionally to meet with the client. They were roughly 600 miles away. So I get a phone call the one day from their executive vice president of North American operations, right? Just to give you the sheer size of this company, they have this person in this position. And the lady, Laura, that I dealt with, she said, when you come into town, I need to have lunch with you prior to your meeting. Okay. So now I'm scared because I think I'm getting fired, right? So I go in and I have lunch with her. And, I take her out to lunch, and between you and me, I mean, I was scraping nickels together. I mean, I didn't have any money. Yeah. And I took her out to like a sub shop or whatever. And we sat down, and she said, we have another project that's coming up, and we're taking bids on it. And I want you to know that you're going to get that contract. And I said, but I haven't pitched for it yet. And she said, well, you still have a month to go on this one, and you're going to get the next one. And she said, and you need to charge us $24,000 a month for that. Okay. And I was like, well, she said, look, the project that you're finishing right now, she said, the next lowest bid for that project was $23,500 a month. You gave us $7,700 a month. And you've easily done 3 times the work that any of those agencies would have done for $23,500. Right. Now, that client has been a client of mine at $24,000 a month on various projects for 7 years.
Okay.
Right. But at the beginning, you know what I mean? It's how do you value that? So the reason, and I'm trying to draw this in, is when people are getting into the PR world, cost is relative. And you shared something, you shared a nugget, right? That the big companies, how do you value your stuff? If you walk in the door and you're doing a 1.5x as a standard, there's certain large corporations that aren't going to talk to you. If you hit them with too low of a price, they're either going to think that you don't know how to price your product or value your products or services, or 2, you aren't competent to do the job.
That's right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's right.
So add in your stuff. I'm curious to know, how do you feel about what I just said?
Definitely. So, personally speaking, right, when we approach our local clients here in Malaysia, right, it's nothing less than 5,000 and above. Because when we did, because this is the funniest thing that you brought it up, right? We had a sales guy who had a pretty good network. He started approaching all the local companies. And so he went in and he says, look, we're doing a PR, you can go to all these networks, blah, blah, blah. And it's 2005. Now, the PR person in that company said, who's your boss? I want to speak to your boss. I want to speak to the person in charge. So she called me up. And he said, what kind of games are you guys playing? Why is your PR only 2005? Are you guys scamming us? Are you guys trying to scam us or something? He said, there's no way you can get a PR for 2005. It's somewhere around 5,000 to 10,000. So stop doing this thing and trying to scam people. Because she said, look, she said, I'm from a PR company. I have like 10 years in PR. There's no way you can get something like this price. So I was like, really? So I told the guy, I said, look, so when my sales guy came back and he says, this is what happened and this, so I said, right, yeah, she wants it for 5,000. Go ahead, charge her for 5,000. Why are you devaluing us? So, but in that sense, it made me realize that yes, the industry, the PR industry, or what we are doing now, digital PR, it's a virgin. I would say, it's seriously a virgin. All right.
So there's an agency right now that I'll share with you. It's not my agency. I don't know the person, but I was handed, if you will. I mean, people send me stuff all the time. But this person built their agency just using PR. And they in the worst economy in our lifetime, right? Yours and my lifetime. They've done about 500 grand this year just doing PR. Okay.
It's definitely possible. Yeah.
And I don't know all of the details, but I was like, wow. So it's out there. I mean, but I constantly get the questions of, well, how do you price this and how do you do this? And I can't get a client for, I think $1,000 is too much a month for marketing services.
Mhm.
And I get those questions all the time from people. And that's actually why I started Agency Hacker, because I'm going to go through the methods, I'm going to go through the motions, and I'm going to show people, not because I'm trying to brag or anything like that, but I want to show them the bits and pieces of soup to nuts, start to finish, value your services properly. Don't sell if you want to make $10 an hour, go work at Taco Bell. Don't start an agent. Right?
That's right. That's right.
In realize the value of the services that you're providing and ask for the value.
Yep.
Ask for the appropriate value.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to circle back for a moment that if I were selling Spine PR as a service to clients right now, I would probably charge no less than $700.
Definitely.
No less.
Yeah. Definitely.
And if somebody asked and realized that if the client balks at $700, they don't even have any real value in what PR provides.
Yep.
So part of being able to get the ask or get the money for what you're asking for the service is to be able to build the value on the sales side and make them realize that XYZ is happening.
Yep.
And the way you do that is actually fairly cheap. You do a PR, right?
Yep.
If I were starting an agency or I own an agency and I haven't owned it for very long and I'm just getting into the PR world, I would find an asset and I would do a PR campaign through Spine PR. That way I already have my case study and it only cost me $100.
Exactly.
And then go sell that.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So you have to brag on some of your networks. Okay. Your starting price is $100. You're writing the content, which I think is crazy. I don't know how you do it, but
no, we're trying to make, like I said, we're trying to make it easy for the agencies to make money, especially as that, right? Like you brought a good point, like for that guy who did 500,000 in terms of sales during the MCO, right? So during the MCO in Malaysia, during the lockdown, during this COVID thing, right? We have sold more PR during COVID than any other year since our business started. This year, for us, 2020, where other agencies are suffering or going through a lot of issues with income and finances and sales, our sales started picking up since COVID hit. Like we were doing, at one time we were doing like 1,000 PR a month. It's now hitting 3,000 PRs a month.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So
and that's a great problem to have. But let's talk about why.
Yeah.
Why are you doing so well?
So what's happening now when businesses couldn't they stopped doing advertisements, some of them stopped doing advertisements, some of them stopped doing SEO, some of them stopped doing marketing. And they still needed to get their business or the information of their business out there. Out of sight, out of mind kind of idea, right? So if you don't keep on telling people that you're alive and you're doing businesses or promoting yourself enough, people are just going to forget you. Secondly, during the lockdown, a lot of people were at home reading the news because they're reading when COVID just started. Everybody was online reading news, looking at the news online, not really looking at newspapers too much, but they were just online. So they were just browsing online, looking at news. So as more PR go out and goes into all this news like Google News and all this kind of stuff, so companies were noticing that, hey, I'm actually getting my business or my product out online so cheap, and because a lot of people are now online, I can see that there's some traffic coming, some inquiries coming online that I never thought it would happen because through the PR. Like for example, we had many cases of emails that we got, or even testimonies that says, "Hey, Nix, you launched a PR for me. It went on to Yahoo, and I got an inquiry, and I made $20,000 worth of sales from that one PR that I bought from you, and I got a $20,000 sales. That's great. I could never have got that sales if I didn't launch that PR with you." So yeah.
So you brought up a great point. Consumerism is still happening, right?
Yeah.
It's just we've changed the format of how people are purchasing. And I'll give you a great story. Somebody said that they weren't going to make that transition. And this isn't a client. This is actually a personal friend who we get to have different conversations with personal friends than we do with clients.
Yeah.
But in the conversation, I said, what are you doing to transition, knowing that people can't actually physically show up at your place of business? How are you planning on engaging with people, knowing that they're looking for you digitally? And I would never take this person on as a client because they're too close of a friend, right? Yeah. And he said, well, I'm not doing digital. And then I handed him a business card. Right. And he said, what's this? I thought you didn't have business cards. I said, I don't have business cards. I said, but this attorney, they do all kinds of work, and they do bankruptcy work too. So when you need that, right, I want to give you a referral, you know, and here's their card, because they've done business work for me, not bankruptcy work, but other business work, and they're a great attorney. And he looked at me and he said, well, what are you saying? I said, well, I'm telling you, if you're not willing to transition to where the people are that are looking for you, you will end up filing bankruptcy at some point. Okay. Yeah. So one of the questions, you know, everybody talks about COVID and everything else, and it causes me to lose my mind, because I'm like, right now, if you are running a digital agency, and sure, when COVID hit, everybody was unsure what was happening. And then probably within about a month and a half or 2 months, all of the businesses realized that if we're going to survive, we have to start hitting digital really hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're an agency owner and you cannot thrive in this current environment, you shouldn't be an agency owner, because this is the lottery of digital right now.
Exactly.
And then the follow-up is if you're pitching somebody and they don't see that digital is the path that they should be going down based on lockdowns and everything else, just walk away. Don't even continue the conversation.
Exactly.
Just literally turn around and walk out the door. Right.
Yeah. I am shocked. Okay, I'm literally shocked to get messages or people tell me, or digital companies or digital agencies who tell me that they are struggling during this time, during the lockdowns. Because for me, you would like what you said, right? This is the golden opportunity of a lifetime. This whole 2020, if you didn't make money during the start of COVID, you still have 70 over days to do it. Go do something. Yeah. Because you could have easily, a company could have easily made $500,000 to $1 million before the end of this year, because this COVID thing is here. I mean, it's here to stay, but the opportunity is once in a lifetime. If you didn't build the agency now, even if after COVID comes and vaccination comes, you're still not going to build your business anyway, because you had the opportunity now. Everybody's going, every industry is scrambling to go online. And if you didn't, and it's like I said, right, the harvest is huge, right? But the workers are a few. And this and in this year, it's really the truth, because I mean, locally we see it here in Malaysia. Everybody is rushing to go online, and yet companies tell me that.
What I tell people is that a year ago, if somebody asked you what you did and you told them that you ran a digital marketing agency, they'd say, "Oh," right? Because they're getting hammered with phone calls every day of every digital marketing. And my joke is that there's 6 million businesses in the US and 2 million of them are marketing agencies, right?
Yeah.
And everybody runs a marketing agency. Now that the phones have stopped ringing. And the reason why the phones have stopped ringing is because those 2 million marketing agencies who were pounding the phone, smiling and dialing nonstop, they are full of clients right now.
Yeah.
And those client calls, you know, the calls for, hey, let me manage your Google listing or whatever that stuff is, all of that is stopped.
Yep.
Which means now is like prime opportunity to go out. And a year ago, if somebody said, you know, what do you do for a living? I run a digital agency. Oh, well, you're the people that call me every day. Now, if you say the same thing, hey, what do you do for a living? I run a digital marketing agency. You do? I need a digital marketing agency. Right? Exactly. I need digital marketing. And that's the transition shift of, and then the next wave in 2021 is really exciting for me from an agency perspective, because here's what's happening right now. People don't understand, these business owners don't understand digital marketing. they're hiring an agency, and most of them are hiring terrible agencies.
Yep.
So right now, a new agency owner or fairly newer agency owner, one should be able to get clients hands down, left and right.
Yep.
But the real gold mine is going to happen in April of next year. Somewhere around March or April of next year, when all of these initial contracts have ended and they went into a contractual agreement with a terrible agency,
Yep.
did a terrible job.
Yep.
And you'll be able to pick up all these, it'll be raining clients in like
Yeah.
March or April of next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I tell other agency owners this, and they're like, I don't see it. I don't get it. Like, what don't you get?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like winning the lottery of digital right now.
Correct. And that's the thing, right? You don't wait for that to happen, right? You start building, you start building your from an agency. Just say if now I was a new agency and I've just started, right? And I see this happening, right? I would start building content, my website, my track record, my case studies. I'll start pushing out PR about myself online so that people can see about me. I'll start getting as much information as I can to build an authority for my niche or for whatever I'm going to do. So when the time comes when all these contracts are going to end, and if I have to pitch them, for example, I have all the assets in play, right? And these clients or these companies are already so used to going online. When they search for you and they find you online, they see, wow, you got all this content, you got all these videos, and you are an authority. They most likely choose you than the crappy agency that they work with. For you to get that particular contract with a client is too much easier. So I don't see why agencies aren't doing that. And I mean, I had a conversation with Craig about this, right? And he said something. He said, guys, get on the PR bandwagon now before the price goes up in 2021, which is going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I see lots of the past 3 months, I've seen a lot of SEO and digital agencies coming to us and pivoting their business from SEO, digital, to complete PR agencies. Because what they are saying is this: I do a strategy with a client. I don't write the PR. I don't distribute the PR. I don't do anything. I'm just selling the strategy, and I'm making more than 100% profit. Why not? Why go through all the hard work? And I don't even do the reporting.
Right.
We give them the reporting, right? And everything's done for them. All they have to do is open them out and sell strategy, which I've been saying, sell your strategies, right? And they're doing that.
And that goes back to what Anthony told me about Spine. And I said, so let me get this straight. They're going to do all the PR work. They're going to get the content syndicated. They're going to write all of it, and they're going to white label report it for 20% of the cost of what it cost me through PR Web or whatever.
Yeah.
I think people are missing the boat. I mean,
exactly.
I think people are missing the boat.
They are missing the boat, and the worst part of it is this, right? We get a lot of inquiries from agencies every day to want to work with us or partner with us, right? And at the price point we are still giving them that is so low. Some of them are arguing with my team about the prices. Like, hey man, can you give it to me lower? It's too expensive. And I'm like, what the heck? Who are these agencies that we are talking to? Why are they even talking to us? I mean, we don't want these agencies because we know that they're not going to last. We're looking for long-term agencies who want to partner with us for a long period of time, that we can work together and build strategies together and build businesses together. So agencies, so now what we're doing is we're cutting out a lot of the agencies who come to us and says, when they approach us and they talk price immediately, they're out. We don't even entertain them anymore.
So you brought up a good point as far as the price hike that I want to explain why it will happen, because it has to happen. Okay. So in this, the conversation I had actually was with my dad, who doesn't understand digital at all. He doesn't call the internet, he calls it the interweb. Right. Okay. I mean, so, we were talking and I said, well, the price has to go up in digital. And he said, why? And I said, because people think that the internet is unlimited. And it isn't. Because the internet is based on eyeballs.
Yes.
And if you go back to do you know who Gabe Layden is?
No, I don't.
I would highly encourage, from an advertising standpoint, he used to be the CEO for Machine Zone that came out with Game of War, Mobile Strike, all of the phone games, right? They did about $600,000 a day in revenue.
Okay.
And he did this great conference about, I don't know, it's probably 5 years ago. And he's sitting in front of, or he's sitting at, I think it's the Recode conference. And the whole room is full of media agencies.
Okay.
And they're grilling him, and he just pissed them all off. And he said, look, you guys are going to go out of business the way that because you guys aren't offering quantifiable data. And there's these other companies like yours that are offering quantifiable data.
Yep.
So when you walk in the door with a Spine PR press release and a report, it has measurable data of this is the engagement, this is this, this is this. You don't even get that from PR Newswire. You don't get that from Cision at all.
Yep.
All you get from them is here's the potential eyeballs that are going to be on this page or this media source.
Yeah.
Whereas you're providing all of the quantifiable data. Yep. And I want to talk about that for a moment. Okay, because I think there's an opportunity as we go through and I can build that into a series where, you know, the old way was CPM advertising and just throwing it out there based on subscribers. Yeah. So taking that all the way back to the newspaper. Let's take away digital for just a moment.
Yeah.
So the newspapers would advertise and they would say, we deliver 9 million newspapers a month. Okay. And what they were doing is they were throwing newspapers on everybody's porch, whether they paid for the newspaper or not.
Correct.
Because then they could go back to the advertiser and say, we have a circulation of 9 million.
That's right.
And therefore we're justifying our ad costs to you as an advertiser paying us based on 9 million.
That's right.
Okay. That transitions into the digital world with CPM, cost per impression, however much per thousand. Nobody's buying into that anymore.
That's right.
Okay? They're buying into quantifiable data where they know that their dollars are being spent for eyeballs, right? Only thing that matters is eyeballs. And that is a huge difference between what you and say Lane, right? Lane over at Quantum.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference between your platforms and the standard Cision product. Cision is still talking about this is your potential subscribers, which would be your CPM model.
Yeah.
You guys are using quantifiable data stating this is how many people saw it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why I want to bring this up is because if somebody is selling your product against Cision's product, Cision's product looks better at face value based on potential impressions versus your quantifiable data. And that's an easy objection to overcome from an agency owner perspective of they're telling you how many people could see it. They're not telling you how many people did.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so I would rather take the lower number of the guaranteed eyeballs of who I know read the content versus you could give me a number of, 9 trillion, right?
Yeah.
9 billion, sorry. 9 billion people could potentially see it. And I'm going to say there's not 9 billion people in the world.
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
But if I'm pushing a Cision product, they're going to come out with some ridiculous number of somewhere right around 92 million impressions.
Yeah.
All right. Or for a potential audience.
Yeah.
So when you're selling the two products side by side and you say, well, do you want 92 million people who I can't guarantee that 92 million people saw it.
Yeah.
Or do you want to get that product out to 1 million people and I can show you a 1.2 million direct engagement. Here's a report. Here's everything else that shows not only what it is, but where it went.
Yep.
Yours is a better product.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that to, suck up to you, man.
No.
You know what I mean? I was the biggest skeptic at the beginning, but when I looked at the reporting side, I was like, wow, this is, hands down. So you still haven't alluded to who do you publish through?
Okay.
Right?
So
some of the networks like,
we have the normal networks everybody uses. Standard stuff is basically all the NBC, CBS, Fox affiliate sites. We don't actually go to the actual Fox sites, but these are all affiliate sites that are holding the Fox brand. We go to AP News, the AP News Network. We go to the financial network like Morningstar, Market Watch, Yahoo Finance, and a whole lot of other sites that are news sites that's springing up. Right. So what we do is every month we do a audit of the sites. So we look at all the sites that we have, and we remove sites that are spammy or bad or whatever. So that's kind of a process that we do. And we are one of the few who actually have 3 to 4 networks that we use. So from an SEO point of view, just say if you're doing a PR every month, or we don't use the same network for you every month. We kind of like change the distribution. So you get some sort of a, how you say,
a footprint.
Yeah, right. So you don't have like 100 PR going on from the same distribution. So we kind of mix it around every month. We kind of switch here and switch here and switch there. So that gives you some sort of a better and as from an SEO point of view. But other than that, we work with other publishers who for a global network. So like if a client says, look, I want to go into China, right? So we'll work for you. We'll work with a China partner with you, and we'll give you a list of all the sites that we know or guarantee that we can get. That's something that Cision doesn't do, right? So some of these big networks, they say, okay, this is the price. This is what we're going to do we're going to blast it out to all these places, but we cannot guarantee you that you'll get in. We will give our clients a guaranteed list. This is the list. This is the guarantee. If we don't get into this list, we'll give you back your money.
And nobody else does that.
Nobody else does that. Nobody else dare to does it. So nobody else dare to do it. At this particular time, we are one of the only few companies who actually, I think so we are the only companies that I know that you know that does it. So if we say we're going to get into Yahoo, we'll get into Yahoo. If we say we're going to get you into AP News, we're going to get you into AP News. If we don't do it, or Business Insider or whatever, they say, look, take back your money. We failed in that distribution. We don't care whether we wrote it for you. There's no such thing as a percentage whereby I say, oh, because I wrote it for you, so I cannot give you back 100%. I'll give you back only 30%. No such thing. If I don't get you in, you get back your home. You get back a full refund, no questions asked, because we failed in that distribution. So that's something that we kind of like. I think we're the only one who's doing it now, and I know a lot of people who are doing PR are going to hate us because we are doing that. We're not supposed to do that, but I think that we shouldn't take the agencies that's coming to us for granted, because they are trying their best to get businesses right, and they need to make some money. And I don't want to be a person to sell them a product and say, I'm sorry, this is just an estimation of what you're gonna get. If you don't get in, I can't give you back your money.
So I'm gonna reinforce something, because I do have agency. I do have some of your people who watch my videos. All right. So I'm going to say something directly to them and the new people that I'm going to make an open statement that is very negative, but I'm doing it for the right reasons. If you are not selling a spine PR campaign for more than $700, you are already failing, right? So these people, when we talk about, going back to hitting the value of what you're getting and selling that to a client, the valuation should be no less than 700. No less than 700. That is 7x, right? 700% increase in cost. And when you compare that, it's still going to be less than if you use a Cision-based product, PR Web, PR Newswire. It's still going to be less, way less, just in their cost. And frankly, I would hit anything at $1,000 easily, $1,000 easily, because keep in mind, and I'm saying this to your current agencies, because I see some of the people who are working with you in our circles, and they're selling your services way low, way low. I can't even take them seriously. And I had a conversation with one of your clients. and I was trying to be nice, and they were asking me how to value your products and all this other stuff. And I said, this is what I would do. Oh, no, that's way too much money. I said, then you're an idiot, right? Not you, but them.
Yeah.
And they were upset, well, what would you charge? I said, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000, 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500 is fine. Yeah.
And I said, but when you come in and you hit the industry at $250, you are going into some form of indentured servitude. And the idea of quantity, right? And quantity pricing, I get so tired of. And we see it happen, right? It's tortoise versus the hare. There's that old Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah.
And at this point in my life, I walk in, and I literally just had a conversation with somebody the other day, and they said, well, are you willing to take on any new business? I said, probably not, right? Which is my standard response now. Probably not. But what do you have? And if it's interesting enough, I may take it on.
Yeah.
And that's not from an arrogant standpoint. It's me. I want to be more respectful of my time.
Yeah.
And they explained everything that they wanted to do. And they said, how much should this cost? Or how much would you charge me to do that? I said, you're probably looking at $8,000 or $9,000 a month. And the guy came unglued. What do you mean $8,000 or $9,000 a month? I said, man, I'm giving you a deal at $8,000 or $9,000 a month. I really am. And he said, well, I've talked to other agencies, and they're coming in at like 1,500. I said, yeah, they'll do that for, I don't know, 6 months, and you'll work them to death, and then they'll get pissed off because they're not charging you enough money. And then they're not even going to want to take you on or continue with you as a client, because they're going to become more intelligent over time, and they're going to start raising their prices. And then you're going to expect the same results for the same amount of money, and they've already increased their value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When we go back into the new agency owner side and people start learning how to value themselves, what ends up happening, which is the fault of the agency owner, is their earliest clients want to continue at a pricing model that wasn't realistic for scaling.
Yeah.
And then they become disappointed and disheveled and everything else because they don't want to abandon that client, and that client is holding them back.
That's right.
Because it's a time suck, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, value the product, value the service properly.
Yeah.
And I want to give you the opportunity, as we're closing this out, give us, if you had to focus on one piece of advice that you would give to an agency owner having owned agencies, of what not to do, right? Like, don't do this. I've done it. It sucks. What was one mistake that you made that you look back and you laugh, right? Not a tragic mistake, but one of the things that the 80-20 rule, spend 20% on 80% of your money, or whatever that looks like. What is the one piece of advice that you'd give to somebody?
Do not undercharge. That's it. Just do not undercharge. Whatever you're doing, just do not undercharge, because you'll be surprised that the price that you charge for your services, the clients will say okay to it. Do not go in and say, this is not going to be the price. There's so much of things, right? I could tell a new agency owner not to do. But one of the things is this: do not undercharge, because when you start undercharging, or you try to get the business cost out of desperation, there's one thing, right? You actually destroy your own market. You destroy the industry, and you cheapen your services so much that you cannot, I would say, get back all that value that you have thrown, right? So one of the things that we made a mistake when I started agency was we were undercharging for our services, because we thought we were new, and because we were new, or we didn't have case studies and all that kind of crap. And when we went in, we were charging so low, and the prices, the cost of the price that we were charging didn't justify the amount of work that we were doing, and we couldn't sustain the agency.
Right.
And the agency this year we have 30 clients. All 30 clients were peanuts, right? We still couldn't sustain the agency, because having 30 clients means having more manpower, more workforce, and more costs.
I just did that. I just did that with my girlfriend, not even related to digital. Okay. and this literally just happened in the last few days, that I realized that we had 5 can openers in our house.
Okay.
You can only open 1 can at a time.
Yep.
And I can't imagine why. I've had one of the can openers I've had at least for 20 years.
Wow.
Okay? They don't go bad. You know what I mean? So I noticed that, and I want to try and draw the picture a little bit, because I was angry that the can opener wasn't being treated very well. Okay. I'm somebody who, I take care of what I have, right? It's about quality. I buy good things, et cetera, and quality over quantity. Now, my girlfriend, and I'm not picking on her, is more about quantity. Okay. Yeah. So I threw 4 of the 5 can openers away.
Okay.
And she was angry. And and she said, "Where is the can opener?" I said, "We only have 1 now, and it's exactly where the can opener should always be." And she said, "What happened to the other ones?" I said, "We didn't need them. So I threw them away." And she said, "Well, what happens if this one breaks?" And I said, "If you take care of that one, it won't break."
Yeah.
Now that's the lesson going into that, right? 5 can openers versus 1.
Yeah.
We find ourselves in an industry where people want the 5. They're going to devalue. If you have 5 $1,000 a month clients, you should probably really have 2 $2,500 a month clients.
That's right.
Take care of them better.
Yeah. That's an absolute truth. Yeah.
And if you undervalue your services, and if you have those 5, you're at 5 $1,000 a month clients, you're going to constantly be pissed off at all of the different things and having to stop working on this client to move on and do something that this client needs. Yeah. And it's not their fault. It's yours.
Yeah.
As the agency owner.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair. I don't know, man. So, I mean, in terms of new agencies, right, I think one of the biggest issues they have is the mindset. They just don't believe that they could give, they can do what they say they can do. Or they set up an agency and they can't do what they're supposed to do, and they're trying to lie to themselves and say they can do it. And you know what I mean? So, because they put up all that, okay, I can do everything, and then now suddenly I can't do everything, right? And so, I mean, I'm not sure whether you would like to talk about mindsets, but I think a lot of it, I mean, when I started, I think we had the same issues, mindset, right? Was afraid to charge clients. And it's like this, right? Once you go, I mean, we have charged clients $100,000 for a website before, right? To build a website, $100,000 website. We have charged clients $1 million to build a customized site before in our agencies, with all the custom application and all that kind of stuff. But we would never have gone there if the mindset wasn't right. I'm not sure because.
So one of the episodes that I'm going to do that's sales-based that's coming up is the difference between will versus skill, right? And what I think really hinders agencies is they either have the skill and they don't know how to value that skill, but they really need to move into willpower, right? The willpower of, I couldn't tell you how many times people ask me, well, I really just want another customer tomorrow. Well, great. What are you doing about that? Yeah. Right? How many people are you reaching out to? 20 by 20 rule, right?
Yeah.
If I want 20 clients, I take 20 divided by 20. That's my engagement number. And then I take that number divided by, or 0.2, right? And literally, if I want 20 new clients, what is that? 400 times. I have to reach out to 8,000 people in order to potentially get 20, or 800. I'm sorry. 800. So I have to reach out to 800.
Yeah.
And out of the 800, probably 100 of those, of the 800 are actually going to engage with me because they have an interest in what I'm providing. And out of 100, I'm going to get 20.
Yeah.
But if you told somebody, hey, I really want 20, if somebody came to you and said, I really want 20 new clients, next month. How do I do it? And you say, well, you have to reach out to 800 people. Whoa, hold on a second.
Exactly. So it amazes me that you want something, but you're not willing to work for it.
Right.
So how, I mean, new agencies, right? New agencies are just doing that. It just amazes me that I want something and I'm not willing to do that. And when they tell me that I can't get clients, and I ask them, what kind of marketing are you doing? Are you diligent in your marketing? Yeah, I put up a post. Yeah, I bought some ads and it doesn't work. How many times did you buy the ad? How long do you run the ad? Oh, I ran it for a month. Dude.
Well, I tend to be very brash in business now, versus, years ago. But people get so angry with me when they apologize to me for whatever reason. And I say, don't apologize to me, apologize to your children.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that pisses them off. If they come to me and say, hey, I didn't hit my numbers, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. Don't apologize to me, apologize to your children.
Exactly.
If a business comes to me that's a client and says, hey, you gave us some advice and we should have done this, et cetera, whatever, I'll literally use the same phrase. Don't apologize to me, apologize to your children. I'll say that to a client. Well, what do you mean? Well, you didn't take the proper steps in order to put yourselves in a position to capitalize on business that you're not going to have now, and you're not going to get it back.
Yeah.
Don't apologize to me, do better.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I always tell everybody, I would never work for me. Right? I am the most obsessive compulsive person that anybody has ever met. It works unbelievably crazy hours. And you've seen me on social media where I'm sending out a message at like 3:30 in the morning, and you're like, is this not done working or just starting working? I'm confused. It's 3:30 in the morning. Right?
Yeah. I get the same thing. Yeah. So I mean,
that's what it takes.
Yeah, that's what it takes, man. So it things needs to be done, right? For example, right, in Spy now, we are talking about generational wealth. We're not talking about just making money as an agency anymore, right? Sure. So the people who are working with us is like, how can we build this company that you can have generational wealth? Can we bring wealth to you, to your family, and so on to your children? Like, we're not just talking about just running an agency and, hey, let's do an agency, because I passed that agency level of business now. What we're doing now is more towards how can we build a wealth? How can we invest that wealth, the funds that are coming into the business? How can we make more money from that profits that we make, so that we don't have to work longer hours because we're being smart about our business? So a lot of agency owners don't think that now. The new agency owners, I mean, this is because of the experience that we had, but a lot of agency owners don't do that anymore. They don't have okay, I'm going to set up an agency. They don't think about, how long am I going to run this agency? Is it going to be 5 years and then I'm going to exit it? Is it going to be an agency where I'm going to keep it for the rest of my life? Is it an agency, a 1-year agency, then after that I'm going to do something else? They don't think about all those kind of things now. So, I mean, advice to agencies that you need to think about all these things. You need to think about your niche, you need to think about your business, and you need to really, and if you are an agency owner now, and if you are making like 10 grand a month in terms of profits, right? You as the founder should not be doing any operational costs already. Should not be doing any operational work ever. You should be doing something else. You should be growing your business.
So right? one of the things that happened over the last 30 days, so I still have like 4 more days on my current Facebook suspension, right? So in the last 26 days and a little bit before that, I hinted at the fact, and this is, just pay attention to this on social media, because I know you pay attention. So one of the things you're going to see is I made a decision, and I'd been researching different industries over the past probably 6 or 8 months. And I have these behind the scenes, I'll call them little spats happening right now, because I can't post on Facebook and all of that stuff. And you're about to see that become fairly public in a nice way. But I made the decision to launch an affiliate marketing site. Okay. And all of a sudden these people are like, no, right? That's our industry. You know what I mean? You're going to come in like an elephant in a china shop and just start beating around. And I was like, yup, sure am. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep them on their toes. So that's excitement for you that you're going to see as I start launching these different assets that I've been working on behind the scenes. And all of these people are like, is there any way we can talk you out of, going into the affiliate space? Yeah, no. I said, if I were you, I said, I'd look at what you're doing and I'd hone up your skills because you guys have gotten really fat and really lazy.
Yeah.
And, I'm moving in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Competition.
Yeah.
But you're about to see some of that on Facebook, and I'm amazed at how many people are like, wow, we don't want them in our space. You know what I mean?
I mean, what is so afraid of? Like, it's if you're doing something that's great, model it, right? Model it, look at it, reverse engineer it, and look at it and see what it's doing, what is doing better than, and work on it and become better at it. I mean, that's what agencies should be doing, right? Don't get one thing about agencies, right? They get so jealous about another agency, they don't want to be friends with that agency.
Right.
That's crazy, right? Like in our groups, right? Like in my group, I have PR agencies who are doing digital, who I'm working with, because and when they approach me, they're like so scared, like they're so apprehensive, and they approach, Nix, can I talk to you? I'm also doing digital PR. Say, hey, we are friends. We are from the same family. Let's do digital PR together. And they're like, seriously? Say, yeah. The market is big enough for all of us. We as a company can't get all that 7 billion people. Can't get all the businesses around. There's so much of business going around.
So one of the people that we swim in the same circles with, and I don't know if me and this person are friends anymore, just to be honest, perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But I always thought of this person as a very kind individual, and they're in the affiliate marketing space. And that person had sent me a few messages, and they haven't sent me any messages in about a week and a half now. But they said, are you going into this industry? And I said, yep. And they said, well, I'm in that space. I said, but you should never share that with other people. I'm very transparent, because if I'm going after you, I want you to know it. You know what I mean? And then he took the defensive route of, well, I've been in this space for longer than you and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. I said, then that's great. So it shouldn't really be an issue.
Yeah.
And then he talked about, well, are you going to do your standard SEO linking? I said, yeah, and some more, right? So that and more. And he started to defend his site. And as soon as somebody goes on the defensive, right? Sun Tzu, Art of War, as soon as somebody backpedaling on their heels, I actually took that moment and I said, hey, dude, I said, I know everything about your site. I've been doing research on all of these sites. And I said, your site is getting roughly about 820,000 visitors a month. And these are the links the types of links that you're going after, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I said, and I can get all of those links. So now it's just about content and all this other stuff. I actually don't think that me and that person are friends anymore, because I haven't heard from them in a week and a half.
Okay.
I literally think that people are so defensive when you're talking about my agency is the best. No, you're not. My agency isn't the best. The moment you assume that you're the best at anything, somebody's going to take you down.
Exactly. Yeah.
And never get comfortable.
Correct. I mean, my wife tells me this: you're one of the most paranoid person. You are one of the most paranoid agency owners in the world, and I am. I'm extremely paranoid.
I don't know your wife.
Yeah.
Because I would too.
Yeah, because I'm extremely paranoid about everything. I think the reason why I'm like that is because of when I first started my agency and I had my kid. My first child was born, and I was, stupid agency owner, didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a single dollar in my pocket when my child was born, and I had to take him out of the hospital. I couldn't pay the fees for it to take him out of the hospital. And
Sure.
I didn't tell my wife that. So what happened is that was this. Today is the day I have to take my son and my wife out of the hospital. So I walked to the counter to pay the bill, and I took out my credit card and I put it, and it got rejected. So fine, I got another card. Put it in, it got rejected. Oh damn! Took another card, I put it, and it got rejected again. So 3 cards in my wallet got rejected on that same day. And my wife was with the child upstairs, waiting waiting for me to take the bags and to bring to the car, and I couldn't pay that fee. And that was one of the worst feelings. So on that day, I told myself, what the heck am I doing running this so-called business or agency? And I looked so huge, but I couldn't pay for my first kid to come out of the hospital.
Sure.
So that was the realization point, right? I mean, we managed to solve that. I called up my brother, and he came and he helped me out. And my wife doesn't know about it until many years after our second child, and I told her that. But after that day, when I realized that, I became extremely paranoid about everything, from my marketing to my business to my competitors to my clients, and whatever that I do, it's always I got to do this to the point whereby I'm absolutely and totally satisfied. 100. I know I can't get perfection, but I strive for that as much as I can, because I never want to go back to that ever again in my life.
So,
so yeah.
I'll share with you, that's a similar story to what turned me into an absolute animal. Okay, absolute animal. It involved my son. Okay, so I raised my son as a single dad. Okay, just that's how it worked out, and that's the way I wanted it. But back in my corporate days, in the 2008 2009 timeframe, I was a safety director for a national trucking company here. I would teach truck drivers how to drive safely.
Okay.
And I came back from vacation one day, and this is a terrible story, but I came back from vacation. I had taken my son and all of the other kids to scout camp for a week. That was my vacation. And I came back and I was part of the layoff.
Oh.
Right. So they laid off a third of the company, and they went right after the money. So I didn't know what to do, because I had never woken up on a single day where I didn't have a job. Right. And we have unemployment. I don't know what you guys have there, but they would give me whatever amount of money. I don't even remember, but I remember getting this money thinking, how do people live on this? And my cost of living was so high that I had to reduce my cost of living. And all we could afford to eat was spaghetti every day. Okay. Because I had a growing child, and I could buy a box of noodles and a box of a jar of spaghetti sauce. And we literally ate spaghetti every day for 6 months.
Wow.
Okay. So, anyhow, what I would do, because my son was younger and he was growing, and he was about to be a teenager, I think, if I remember right. So what I would do is he would eat spaghetti for breakfast. He wouldn't eat lunch at school. And then he would eat spaghetti for dinner. And then whatever was left, I would eat. Okay. So the one day my son, I'm unemployed. I'm looking for a job. I'm not going to settle for something just to have a job, if that makes any sense. I was very arrogant back then. And the one day my son came out after school, and he came home and he said, Dad, he brought out his piggy bank with him. Okay. And it literally looked like a pig. It was one of these ceramic big piggy. And he came out and he said, Dad, can we not have spaghetti tonight? Okay. He said, I have $18 in my piggy bank. Can we go somewhere else? And I said, sure, whatever you want to do. So we walked, right? Because I had minimized my life. I had sold my car. I had, literally at that point in time, I was sleeping on the couch because I sold my bedroom set so that he would still have a bed to sleep in, because I was broke.
Yeah.
Right. And so we walked 2 to 2.5 miles or whatever down to Taco Bell. And I looked at it, he said, you go ahead and order. And I said, all right, I want 3 items off of the dollar menu, right? The cheapest stuff or whatever. It was 2 things off of the dollar menu and something to drink. And then he ordered 4 things off of the menu and something to drink. And he paid for, the meal, which was whatever it was. And we sat down, and my son took one of the items that was in front of him, and he slid it across the table, and he said, I want you to have this, Dad. I ordered it for you. And I said, well, I ordered food, buddy. And I said, but thank you. And he said, Dad, he said, it dawned on me today that there's some days you don't eat. Because he would eat all of the spaghetti. Okay. And I said, yeah, but that's fine. Right. You just kind of blow it off as a parent. Right. And I mean, I'm talking literally, I didn't have a quarter in my pocket at that point.
Yeah.
So we walked back home, and my son went to bed. Okay. So he goes to bed, and I cried. And I'm not a crier. I'm not somebody that just breaks down into tears. Right. And the next day he woke up and he gets ready to go to school, and he's like, more spaghetti for breakfast. Right.
Yeah.
And then he went to school, and I cried. I felt like a loser. I felt like a complete failure to my child.
Yeah.
And that turned me into an animal. Okay. Absolute animal, because I transitioned in one day from, the military guy going into corporate America to losing everything and getting slapped in the face, not intentionally by my child, but just the realization that I was failing my son.
That's right.
And it does not matter. I don't matter at that point. Yeah. So that's why when somebody apologizes to me, I say, don't apologize to me. Apologize to your family.
Yep.
Because they're the ones that are suffering.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But those are powerful moments.
Yeah.
When people come at me and they're like, why do you work 7 days a week? Why do you own 25 different companies? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? I tell them, I refuse to lose.
Yep.
When it's will versus skill, I may have the skill on this end, but you can bet your ass I have the willpower based on past experience that I will not fail.
Yeah.
I will never be in that position again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think every agency, whether you are a seasoned agency or a startup agency, you need to have this mindset, because if you don't, then it's just, I am appalled when I hear agencies saying to me that they can't survive. There's a lockdown. I can't survive 2 months. I'm dead. I'm appalled. Like, what have you been doing all these years as an agency, right? Don't you have any boiler funds? Don't you have any savings? And all? I mean, like paranoia, right? We have 3 years of funds in Spine. If anything were to happen, we have 3 years that we can take care of all our staff. Full, no pay cuts for 3 years. That's how paranoid I am. That's how paranoid I am. We have that in a separate account that's safe, and that account is also making the interest and money. But we have 3 years of savings for our company if anything were to happen right now. So when the lockdown happened in Malaysia, and the staff was like, Nix, boss, how can we survive? I said, no worries. I have funds for 3 years. If they lock us down for 3 years, we'll survive for 3 years. You will not go back home without a salary. I assure you that. Which
is also something that the agency owners aren't doing, right?
Exactly.
Literally, I've had that conversation too. I just lost a client, and I don't know how I'm going to keep on. They have 4 employees or whatever. I don't know how I'm going to keep going next month. And I literally look at them, and people think I'm a dick because I'm like, dude, that's your fault, right?
Yeah,
you're not putting yourself in a position to be able to provide, because employees are family, right?
Exactly.
Your family.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting yourself as an agency owner in a position that you can maintain the ebb and flow of agency ownership, that is your fault as the agency owner.
Exactly. And you got to take all the responsibility. It's not your staff, it's not your client's fault, it's your fault. Because when you are doing business, you run the ship. Everything's your responsibility, right? If you can't manage your agency, you can't manage your staff, it's definitely going to be sure that you're going to suffer back in your family. It's not going to have any money. So as an agency owner, new or old, start putting into place, right? If you're a new agency, start putting 3 months. If you're a seasoned agency, start putting a year. If you're a big agency, start putting 3-5 years of saving in plan. You need to do that, because with what's happening now, see, what happened now is a wake-up call for a lot of agencies or a lot of companies that were doing very well last year. And now suddenly they know that, oh my God, I don't have the kind of savings. I never had the kind of savings, because we thought 2020 was going to be the best year of our lives. It is the best year of your life if you had put all that into place. For companies like you and me, we're having the best of our lives now, in fact.
Right. While everybody else is still singing the same song.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of drives me crazy when I'm talking to other people, and they'll come to me and they'll say, well, you're doing this and you're doing it well, and obviously I need to do it more like you. And I tell them, no, do it like you. Don't turn you into me, turn you into a better version of you.
That's right.
And be smarter and work harder. And I lost my mind with one of my brothers. Okay. He kind of fell into this rut, and he's a business owner, and he fell into this rut of woe is me, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Can you help me out? And because it's family, I did. And I said, here's how I would do this. Here's how I would do that. And I don't ever give anybody money, because they need to go earn it. Right. But I'll give them the tools in order to go make money.
Yeah.
And then I called him the one night and I said, hey, I need this from you really quick. And he said, oh, well, I'm out with some friends having dinner or whatever, and, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hold on a second, dude. Like, literally 2 days ago, you were talking about how you're broke and you don't have any money. And then 2 days later, you're out with your friends, hooting and hollering and whatever, having a good time.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything at that point. Okay, because I knew I would be super angry, and I wouldn't actually be able to convey my thoughts in a very meaningful way. So I let it sit for about a week. And then the next conversation I had with him, I said, we need to have what I call a come to Jesus meeting. Right?
Okay.
That you don't get to come to me and say, woe is me, I'm having all of these hard times, et cetera, et cetera. And then in the very next breath, you're out doing all of the things that are causing you to have the financial hardships that you're having.
Exactly.
And because it was my brother, I call it like a donkey kick between the eyes. Right? I mean, I just nailed.
Just gave it to him. Yeah, just drove in, right?
And at first, he was very upset. You know what I mean? We literally had an argument because we're brothers. Okay. And then about a month later, he came back to me and he's like, hey, dude, you were right. For your brother to tell you you're right about anything, that's a win, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm 44 years old. My brother is 40. And it took me 40 years for him to ever say, hey, you were right about something. 40 years of his life. Yeah. But I guess the point that I'm making is that you'd be amazed at how many people just have all of these terrible habits and they don't even realize the terrible habits that they have that are keeping them from being successful.
Yeah.
And self-realization is an important part of growing a business.
Yeah. I think they've not tasted, they've not reached the rock bottom. They've not reached the lowest of the lowest, right? Where your face is just in the scum and there's like nothing else you can do, like lost all kind of hope. They've not reached that level. So a lot of them, I know some agencies are still living with their parents and hey, my agency failed, so what? I'm staying at home. I don't have to pay rent. I don't have to pay a car. I don't have kids. But we're talking to those who have kids and families, and you already started a family together, and they just need to take it more seriously. I would say, whatever you do it 100%. If you don't do it 100%, then might as well just don't do it. Just work for somebody.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
you sharing that story with not being able to pay for your son. Is it your son?
Yeah, my son.
Okay. So I think people, because there you don't have really the same system of medical insurance that we have here.
No.
Right?
No.
That you pay for whatever the services are that were rendered at the time that you're finished, if I understand that or simplify that. that had to be like the biggest kick to the junk.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the lowest of the low points. And I think those points are important for business owners to experience that.
Yeah.
Because that's the motivator. That's the why. That's
Yeah.
the, when Nix is, when you're burning candlelight after everybody has gone home,
Yep.
you're doing it for you, and you're doing it for your business, and you're doing it for your business family, but you're really doing it. I know this. You're doing it for your son, because that's in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
That deal with my son, I mean, that's always, when I look at it and I don't have anything to do, right? Or not even, let's just say I have nothing to do, which never happens, right? If somebody said, hey, what are you going to do now that you have nothing to do? My answer is going to be work.
Yeah.
I don't watch TV. I don't watch politics. I don't
Mhm.
read the news. I don't do any of this stuff. If I have a spare minute, that spare minute is being spent moving something in a positive direction that is going to pay off for myself, for my son, for my family, for all of that. And I think that's missing in most business owners.
Yes.
They think that they can run an agency 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
No such thing, man. No such thing.
And when I tell people that I will literally sometimes work 90 days straight and then take 3 days off, they're amazed by that. That's only 12 days off a year. They do that. I mean, 12 days off a year. I don't think that the reason why most agencies fail is because that the people who are running them aren't conditioned to work.
Yep.
To put in the effort.
Yep. I agree. I totally agree. They think that starting an agency is glamorous. Oh, I have an agency. It's nothing glamorous about running an agency.
You've seen me pick on those people pretty openly on Facebook.
Yeah. They're not.
And it's funny because the one guy, I don't remember his name, but he came to, he said something. I said, I don't need a Ferrari to feel important, right?
Yeah.
I don't need a Ferrari to feel like I mean something in life. And he said, well, what kind of car do you drive? I said, a Ford EcoSport. And he's like, what? I said, I don't measure my success by the car that I drive.
Exactly.
And that car takes my groceries. I can fill it with groceries. I can put dogs in the car, and it gets me from point A to point B. And I paid for it in cash.
Yep.
And I'm literally going to drive that car until the wheels fall off of it. I don't care. But I don't know. If you want to get me to absolutely go nuts on social media, it's generally pointing out that somebody's talking about, this arrogant, oh, well, I'm doing it for the yacht.
Yeah.
Oh, so your kid's going to go to public school where consignment store clothing so that you can buy a fancy car, a fancy watch or whatever. That sounds pretty irresponsible.
Yeah.
And how many of these people on social media are taking a picture in front of somebody else's Ferrari and using that as their cover?
Exactly. Or renting it, right? Renting it for a day for some photo shoot.
It's about being realistic. It's about putting in the work, realizing that, I don't struggle anymore, but people will say, well, you've done all of these things and all of this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not doing it for me. You know what I mean? I'm not. You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for your kid.
Yeah. I'm always thinking, whenever someone speaks to me about business these days, I'm always asking them, are you building business for yourself now? Or are you building business for an entire generation and the next generation? If you're doing for just now, go work for somebody.
Yeah.
Just get a job.
Right.
For now.
Go get a job digging holes. Right?
Yeah. Right. But if you're saying you're going to build an entire business, and I'm not talking about becoming a billionaire, trillionaire, and that kind of stuff, I mean, just talking about basic business, right? The basic blocks of business. When you build a business, what you do with your money, how you invest your money, how you push it back to your business, and all that, right? So Does if you make $1 million this year, you don't go buy Ferrari, right?
Right.
So
It's gonna happen next year.
yeah, exactly. So that's what happened, right? That's what happened to a lot of agencies last year who went and bought some Mercedes and bought a new house and bought some new crap. And 2020, 80% of their clients stopped their retainers with them.
Sure.
They're gone. They're dead. And now, and even in Malaysia, where we are now, a lot of them who bought houses and cars, and they're struggling, and they are really struggling. And basically, they have closed their business down.
Mm-hmm.
Got rid of their staff and closed their business down because they couldn't pay for it anymore. They can't even pay rent,
right,
for a business to keep on going. So, yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
I need to close this out. I actually have to be on a phone call here coming up.
Sure, man.
It is getting late there. It's got to be what?
It's about 6 minutes to 12. But then again, I don't sleep that early, so
holy buckets, man! Midnight, right?
Yeah.
Almost midnight. But let's do this again on the next episode. I want to that we do together. I want to drill down into content syndication pretty hard, right?
Yeah.
And and talk about the different methodologies between content syndication. But this was a great warm up to get the people who are watching these videos, get them to know you and all of that other stuff. And I can't thank you enough for spending literally 2 hours.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me. It's a great chat. I mean, it's great recalling certain stuff that I've forgotten while speaking to you about starting up with the agency. It's kind of interesting, and it's kind of like, okay, it kind of motivated me a bit more to do something else. Yeah, feel that excitement a bit more now.
Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, sure, man. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Nix.
All right.